to mighty London came an Irishman one day. It's a long, long way to Tipperary. It's a long way to go to the sweetest girl I know. Goodbye, Piccadilly. Farewell, Leicester Square. What's up, boxing fans? So, on December 13, 2014, yeah, just look up for this terrific lineup. December is 12, number 13, and 2014, 12, 13, 14. That's a very interesting lineup, almost like, you know, in the sky, stars lined up for those guys. When is exactly the date, in about 2 weeks from now, when Matt Korobov and Andy Lee finally will square off against each other in a fight for the WBO middleweight title vacated previously by Peter Quillin. Well, talking about these boxers, I would say that Korobov and Lee, they have lots of similarities in their careers as well as dissimilarities. They both came with a terrific amateur background, especially Korobov. So, yeah, he's a Russian boxer, typical yet brilliant representative of the Soviet boxing school. He won gold at World Amateur Championships in 2005 and 2007, if I'm not mistaken. He won a European junior title back in 2001. He did not participate in 2004 Olympic Games because Russia at the time sent another great boxer, Beterbiev. So Korobov was left behind. But Korobov then won World Cup in 2005, as well as the European Championship in 2006. Korobov represented Russia then in 2008 Olympic Games, and he was one of the favorites. Actually, he was the favorite, but then he lost in the final. I believe it was Bakhtiar Artayev. And after 2008 Games, he turned professional in the United States. And I must say that both, basically, I must say that Korobov beat many great boxers, Russian boxers, back in the day when he was as an amateur. And one of them who he defeated was Kovalov, who is now a current light heavyweight unified champ, who recently came out of a terrific victory over Hopkins. So Korobov is a great fighter, so no wonder that Peter Quillin relinquished his WBO crown. Now Lee. Lee, we made introduction with this song. It's in his favor. It's a song of it's a World War I, 1914 era song, the British song. So Lee represents Ireland as a middleweight in 2004 Olympic Games in Athens, where he defeated Alfredo Angulo. But then eventually he lost to Hassan Njikam from France. He turned pro in 2006 and won several regional and minor titles, including NABA middleweight title in 2011, NABF middleweight titles, and then Irish super middleweight titles. He had two losses. One loss to Brian Vera, which I saw that fight, and I believe it was a premature stoppage. Actually, it was totally illegitimate stoppage. I think the ref made a boo-boo. He shouldn't stop that fight. He stopped the fight exactly at the moment when Lee was unleashing his attack on Vera, so it was an ugly stoppage. I think he shouldn't lose that fight. His second loss was to Junior Chavez, who beat him quite a bit, and it was a stoppage also, and it was a legitimate stoppage, so it was a loss for Lee. Looking into the dates, to now we have 2014. So Kovalev has been as a professional for 6 years, and Lee was for how many? 8 years, and he only once came close to fight for the championship fight. And Korobov, being so great fighter, he is undefeated. He has 24 fights, 0 losses, and he never came close to the championship fight. This is for the first time he fights for the belt. So we can say that it's a very important fight for these both fighters, and you can bet on it that they will fight their heads off just to get hold of the title. So it's going to be very serious, very, very dedicated fight. It is a special fight also because they both are leftists. They are both good leftists with a punch. So I doubt that fight will go distance. It's going to be short fight, very violent fight, very, very exciting fight to watch. And having these two southpaws squaring against each other, we might have some unpredictable results and outcomes, because sometimes southpaw, they are great against right-handers, but when they meet each other, they suddenly become troubled. And we have some hidden agenda here, so we might see something different what we expect from these two fighters. It is a special fight also because these fighters, they have similar characters. In terms that Korobov is a Russian and Lee is Irish. And to my observations, I observe lots of Russians and lots of Irish people. I have friends on both sides, and they are so similar spiritually and even physically. They look very, very similar. Those features of their faces, their facial expressions, it's all the same. And I have lots of jokes, you know, kidding and pulling their legs and talking about loving potatoes, and they love the same food. They are rebels, yeah. So in this sense, it's gonna be also kind of clash of similar characters and similar cultures. And so what Andy Lee needs to do in order to win this fight? He must use his long reach and fight from a long distance, because Korobov is a very dangerous puncher. If he keeps the long distance, and for this he needs to use his jab, and do not try to move, do not stay in front of Korobov. Try to move left and right as much as possible, and of course the jab should be his main weapon to probe into Korobov's defense and to keep the distance, which is exactly favorable to him, the long distance. Also, he needs to he must not into, I would say, he must not get into exchanges, because Korobov is more powerful, and if he gets with Korobov into exchanges, it's going to be deadly for him, and the KO will go come very soon. And he also must try to deflect the attacks by disrupting the distance, going to the sides, making blocks. And then if he needs to counter, he should come up with his right hook, which he frequently underuses. Though in his latest fights I saw that he uses his right hooks better and better, so he's improving. So hopefully we will see something in a better quality in his previous fights. And if he lands any of the punches, he must follow up immediately. He has also a big punch, and he can also knock Korobov out if he is lucky. Now Korobov, well, in order to win, he must be the aggressor. He must show his aggression early. He must, and he can, cut the corners when Andy will be running. Lee cannot fight in a close quarters, so it's the task number one for Korobov to come to impose a fight in close quarters. So the fight, if he manages to do that, he can deliver lots of good punches, and the fight will be over very soon. Lee is very susceptible to the right hook, so also the right hook is a weapon of choice for Korobov in this case, and Korobov has a terrific right hook. He utilizes it very frequently at will, and he loves to do it, and he does it lovely. So Korobov must catch, he can and he must catch Lee when they come in at a close distance, and he can do it successfully. So who will win actually in this fight? Well, Lee has some chance, though very little, but in order to win this fight, for sure he needs to eat lots of potatoes. Yeah, only raw potatoes, something like this. Big and nice potato. It's a very, very precious food. If he eats 10 sweet potatoes a day, then he will win for sure. Yeah. So now Korobov. Korobov is a very skilled fighter. He is long overdue to be a champ. I think he's the only, by the way, he's the only one, I think, in the middleweight division who actually in the entire world probably, who can challenge Gennady Golovkin and give him a good fight. So I do believe that Korobov will win this fight, and most likely it will be a knockout. He will knock out Andy Lee probably somewhere in the middle rounds. Most likely it's going to be in around 5 or 7. So for these fighters. Now I'd like to mention a few words about Artur Beterbiev, a boxer who's going to be fighting on December 19, a week after Korobov and Andy Lee. And he's going to be fighting Jeff Pay Jr. from the United States. I should have probably another flag for him, yeah? So this is the flag for him. Alright. So I'd like to talk about Beterbiev a little bit. Originally he is from Chechnya, a republic in Russia. And this guy, now he is hailed out of Canada, Montreal. He fights in a light heavyweight division, the same division where Kovalov. In the amateurs, they say that he did beat Kovalov, though I never saw that fight, but I did see with my own eyes his fights against Ismail Silah, and he won twice. In one of those fights, he actually knocked Ismail Silah cold, and I believe it was the first punch which spelled disaster for Ismail Silah, and it looks like he's susceptible. He suffered a couple more heavy losses, including one from Kovalov about a year ago. And Beterbiev, he showed himself as a classy boxer. I think he's both a classic guy in the ring and out of the ring. His last fight was against Tavoris Cloud, and he destroyed Tavoris Cloud, and he stopped him in a high class, in a great style, and he showed his dominance from the very beginning. I think he is one of the fighters. I mean, he's the one who will give a good challenge to Kovalov in near future. So the Russians are coming. So Beterbiev, he has 6 fights, all 6 by knockout, and his next fight, his number 7 fight, will be against Jeff Page, as I said, who also is undefeated fighter. He won 15 fights, no losses. Though I never saw Page fighting, so I do not know how he fights, but I do believe it should be a good fight, and we shall see that. And tell me your opinion. Your opinion was important, very important for boxing, very important to me. Please let me know what you think about these 2 fights, and we shall talk after these fights. Ciao.